Oh, it's been an interesting 24 hours with um, getting things to work. Just conscious of my hair as well. One of my friends said that on the videos it looks like a fluffy white cloud. Well, I've got these, sort of shaver ready to go. And I thought it won't be looking like a fluffy white cloud then, it'll look like ground frost by the time I've finished with it. So that's to come soon. And yesterday, I had a delivery of a new turbo trainer for my bike, quite a sophisticated one, which is different to the very simple one that I've been using. So there are a lot of things to kind of understand about, oh, it felt like there were a lot of things to understand about that. And how to get the apps working and connected to it on my phone, because theoretically, you have all these routes on this application, and I can look like, I'm riding through London or up Mont Ventoux or whatever. And getting things set up and working, it's just not straightforward, to say the least. You get close to those moments. I remember being on the bike tour in India, and there was a day and I thought I could cry. And I didn't. In fact, I'd set that as a goal. Sometimes it's a good thing to cry, but it was going to be one of those girly cries, like, I can't do this. Came close to one of those moments yesterday. But then I'm amused by it, which is always the antidote for me, to be amused by what's happening and to remember that, I had thought that when I was on the bike tour, and I didn't, and I carried on, and I was fine. Well, as fine as you can be on one of those bike tours. And I thought, well, why did that bother me so much yesterday? And I remember when I first became independent, and I worked with a consultant who was such an incredible guide and support to me. I also remember him saying, just before I left the corporate world, he said, when you go independent, he said, you become independent. And I didn't really know what he meant at that time. I know what he meant now. He had such profound but simple common sense advice. And I remember one day we've been running a training session, and I was tidying up the flip chart, I think the flip chart stand. We were in a conference center in a hotel, and he said, what are you doing, Sue? And I clearing, tidying up the flip chart. He said, no, he said, there's somebody here that does that. He said, that's a low payoff activity. Not meaning it's low payoff in general, but for me to be doing it, it was a low payoff activity. He said, really important, he said, to distinguish between the high payoff activities and the low payoff activities. He said, that's not for you. And I realized over time what he meant was that it's like, how do I free myself up to do the things that I'm best at, and not distract myself with things that could be done in other ways or more efficiently or by somebody else. For me, they're low payoff. They may not be low payoff for them, for example. And interesting, that's what NLP is all about. It's like, what's the difference that makes the difference? So we find the instrumental piece to be able to achieve the results we want, and be able to let go of, leave out the non-necessary pieces, so that we have the most efficient way of achieving a result. That's probably going to be an eye-opener for some people to realize that's what NLP is. And so I realized that since I've been in this lockdown, that I have developed quite a structure for myself. I have tidied things up, organized things. Whereas when I was traveling a lot, I'd have somebody come in and clean the house for me while I was absent. Not like many of my friends in India who do have people permanently sort of helping with things like that. I know lots of people in India don't have that, but there's quite a few people who do. And so I'd come back from a trip abroad and not necessarily know where things were. She'd put them in different places. It wouldn't be quite the way I would wish for, but nevertheless, a huge help. And now I have things where I want, and I've got systems that enable me to do what I want to do in a day, by and large. And the other things are kind of, they take care of themselves, or it's efficient. I know where things are. I've ordered, my books, my cupboards, shelves in the kitchen, for example, so that I can concentrate on what for me are the high payoff things. And so the delivery of this trainer yesterday really just like upset the whole process. And that was, I realized subsequently, I still have this cough, I realized subsequently it was that disruption to the structure. It isn't the same structure every day, but there is a structure that I rely on, that frees me to do what I wish to do. It's the same in my trainings. Those of you who've attended trainings with me will know that it's very unstructured on the surface, in that I go with what's happening in the moment. I do have an outcome. I do have outcomes. There is a bigger frame, but what determines, what I do in that moment is what's happening in that moment. So if somebody is demonstrating a particular language pattern, for example, now is the moment, as far as I'm concerned, to address it. Not, well, I'm going to be doing a session on language and we'll do that later then. NLP is about being real time. For me, it's not about running to an agenda or a timetable. But in order to be able to do that, I believe you have to be very structured under the surface. I can finish on time no matter what, even though the whole day may seem to the group to be unstructured. I'm very structured beneath the surface. And so that's mirrored in my, if you open cupboard doors here. Now, there are cupboards here, if you open the doors, they're not going to be very structured. I haven't got to them yet. But with the ones I have got to, you open a cupboard door and you're going to see structure. And so it kind of permeates the way that I choose and prefer to live my life. And so I think I've just had some help, that I think we've got this turbo trainer sorted now. Now there's the next steps, which are getting the online applications to connect to it and to work and so on. But I feel we're getting there, so that when that's all set up, I can concentrate on training on my bike, which is important to me because I've enrolled again in, I've applied to enroll in another bike tour in India in December, which is going to require a pretty high level of fitness. Whether I make it or not, we'll see. So that's what I hope will be the outcome for today, is that all the setup will be set up and I can concentrate on, in the bike case, just riding. And also it's interesting that with the group that I ride with, that I've done these tours with, which is the Chennai Cycle Club, one of the things that they say, the way they organize these tours, which are big tours, 50, 60 people, they aim to organize it so that all we, the participants, have to do is to concentrate on the riding, and they do. And that follows the same principle. So, question for the day: what are your low payoff activities? And what are your high payoff activities? Do you know? And what proportion of your time are you spending on each? And how might you, if you choose to, organize yourself in such a way that you are, the majority of the time, if you like, is in the high payoff activities. High payoff meaning satisfying, fulfilling, enriching. It might mean monetary as well, but it's not the main definition, although that tends to accompany the other things. I'll leave you with that thought.